Welcome to the gentle class today. Our theme today is letting go. Kind of a big topic, and we can approach it from a variety of different angles. One thing that the Yoga Sutras says about letting go is that we should do our very best effort in life and then let go of the results. So we have this attachment to how things should go. You know, we do a good deed for someone and then they treat us badly. That's not the way it's supposed to go, right? So we have this attachment to outcomes. And the wisdom is do your best, but you cannot control the outcome. And what happens if we try to control every outcome is we get a lot of tension. So that's sort of one way at looking at letting go in a really helpful way. And the other way is something that's come up for me lately is I find my mind can get into these patterns of stress where I just keep kind of going around the same circle, but not actually solving anything. It's often around an issue that maybe doesn't have a solution. It just is what it is, but my mind wants to solve it. And that almost always happens at about 4, 5, sometimes 3 in the morning. And so one of the things that I found to let go of that, to kind of release those thoughts from my mind, is literally to get up and move my body, just move. Now 3 in the morning, I don't usually want to do that, but sometimes at 6, I don't mind getting up and kind of moving and just kind of clearing out of my body through movement. And the other thing is to focus on the breath. So the exhalation is the phase of the breath where we let go. And so we can kind of just focus on the breath and have this feeling of softening and relaxing. It doesn't always work, right? Sometimes the mind is just so strong and so powerful. So it's good to have a whole bunch of tools that we can use. So today what I'd like to do is focus on the breath, focus on this idea of just letting go of tension, right? There's a lot of tension in the world right now. I don't think I need to tell you that. And I can find myself just really kind of getting my body tense around that. So finding some space, some openness, and using the breath to help to let go of tension can be really helpful. So we're going to start lying down today, and you may want to have a couple of blocks or maybe a couple of rolled towels to go under your knees if you don't have those things handy. So for the open angle pose, bound angle pose it's called, where the knees are apart, feet together. So you can press pause if you're watching the replay, get what you need, and then hit play again and meet me on the mat. So I will bring the microphone so that you can hear me. And you can go ahead and lie down on your back. And you can have your knees bent, or if it's more comfortable, you can allow your legs to straighten. Let your hands come onto your body somewhere where you're able to feel your breath. And I'm going to encourage you today, it's something that I also find helpful, is if it feels right for you, exhale through your mouth at times, and you can make any sound that comes out. So a sigh or just anything that comes out. And that really helps to release tension in the body when we make some sound and do some movement. So as you're lying here, tuning into your breath, breathe in through your nose, and if it feels comfortable, breathing out through your mouth. And maybe making a bit of sound as you exhale. So there's no need to breathe any differently. We're not trying to breathe as deeply as we can or anything like that. Just finding some softness, some ease, some release with your exhalation. And now just let your breath return to normal. If you've been breathing with that exaggerated exhalation and making some sound, you can just let that go now. Take a few breaths normally. And tune into your body. Notice what you feel. Notice what's present in this moment. With each exhale, softening wherever there's tension in your body. And then let's take the hands from the body and reach them up towards the ceiling, reaching up to lift the shoulder blades, taking a breath in. And then as you exhale, softening, letting your shoulder blades drop to the ground and feeling that there's maybe a little bit of space in the upper back there from that movement. And then circle the wrists around. So circling one way, circle the other way. You can do this with your hands open, or you can make fists and see how that feels. Good, and then relax the hands, give the arms and the hands a little shake. And then taking the arms and reaching them up overhead toward the floor. You don't have to come to the floor, and you can bend your elbows if you find that more comfortable. And then bring your arms back down to your side. So we'll do that a few times, moving dynamically, taking the arms up. Any amount, maybe bending the arms to be comfortable here with the shoulders, and then back down to your sides. If you want to coordinate breathing, inhale as you lift, exhale as you lower. And if you found that sighing kind of breath, the sounding breath was helpful for you, if you found that that helped you to release a little more, you can add that in here as well. Your breath may be slower or faster, so take extra breaths, or don't worry about coordinating the breath if that feels like you're straining in any way. Right, next, bringing the arms down to your sides, pause there. And let's bring both knees up into the chest. You can bring your hands around your shins or over your knees and gently rock side to side, just waking up the big muscles that support your spine, massaging your back against the ground. And again, with each exhalation, you can have the intention of letting go, of softening. Let's bring one foot to the floor, keeping the other knee in toward the chest. And simply hold here either over the knee or behind the knee, whatever is more comfortable. You can check in and make sure that your knee is happy here. And then either continuing to hold the leg or you can let go. We'll straighten and bend the knee several times. So it doesn't have to be straight, just moving until you feel some stretch in the back of the leg and then releasing. Just slowly warming up, letting go of the need to be anywhere in particular with the stretch. Simply noticing, tuning into your own body and finding where your edge is. And so more stretch and you'd really be kind of forcing things, less stretch and you wouldn't really feel anything. So we want to find that perfect in-between place, and you can play around with that by keeping the leg in the air and gently moving it towards you and away, towards you and away, just little movements, and really find out where is that place where it feels just right. I'm not tensing up to resist or push the stress away, stretch away. And I'm also feeling something. I'm not bored and distracted. You can try flexing your foot a little more, a little less to find some stretch in the calf here. And you can hold on to the leg and gently draw it towards you if that feels appropriate as well. You can also do this without holding on, whatever feels right. Okay, let's bend that knee again, bring it into the chest, give it a little squeeze, and then stretch that leg straight on the ground, and you can take the arms up overhead, press your heel away. Couple of breaths here. You can sigh with your exhale or make sound if that feels right. And then slowly lower the arms. You're going to bend the knee of the leg that was straight, and then the other leg will come into your chest. So the one you haven't worked with yet, but for me it's the pink leg. And again, you can stretch and bend that leg a few times, going at your own pace. If you like coordinating the breath and movement together, you can inhale as you lift the leg, exhale as you bend it, and sometimes that just helps to keep the attention really focused. So if we're just mechanically moving, straightening, bending the leg, thinking about something else, it's actually not yoga. So yoga is when the attention and the movement and the breath all come together. Right, so then you can keep the legs straighter. Again, it doesn't have to be straight. You can experiment with how much flexion in the foot you want. So bringing the toes back toward your face, or maybe having the toes a little more pointed if you feel a lot of tightness in your calf. And then you can move the leg a little away to turn the stretch off, and bring it in. And so we're honing in again on that sweet spot where it's just the right amount of stretch, not too much, not too little, the Goldilocks place in the stretch. And then you can stay there. So again, if you find it helpful to gently draw the leg towards you with your hands, you can certainly do that, or you can just hold the leg in place. So again, bending the knee in toward your body, and then stretching that leg out. Raising the arms up again, bend your elbows if that's more comfortable, or out to the sides if overhead is problematic for you, for the shoulders or neck. And then we'll bring the arms down and bend the legs so that both feet are on the floor. And then let's bring the first leg back in toward the chest. And then if it's comfortable for you, extend the other leg on the ground while you hold the one knee in. Keep the long leg active, press down into the heel, point your toes toward the ceiling, relax your shoulders, your neck, your face. And then we'll do some circles for the knee that you're holding. So you can keep both hands if you like on the knee, or remove one hand, or even remove both hands. So find the way of doing some movement here, some circles, or could be other movement, maybe figure eights, or you could draw your name with your knee. It's really just about getting some movement into that hip. So it's not about the actual shape. You could even add a little twist if that feels good, just bringing the knee across the body and then out to the other side. And then eventually coming back to the center, you're going to place that foot on the ground, bend the other knee, bring it in toward the chest, and extend the opposite leg. So again, that long leg is active, pointing up with the toes, pressing down with the heel, and then some movement for the bent leg, circling, or again, whatever shape is comfortable for you, or feels like it gets into the spots of your own particular hip where you feel tight. If adding a little bit of a twist feels good for you, you can bring the knee across the body and back out to the side, maybe add a few more circles. Right, and then we'll come back to the center, place the foot on the floor. Here, bend the other knee and come to both feet on the floor. And if you feel like your hips are a little bit off kilter from the last movement, doing one leg at a time, you can lift your hips up into a mini bridge pose and then bring them back down in a way that feels aligned. So shoulders, spine, and hips all come into alignment. And let's bring both knees into the chest. You'll bring the knees in. We're going to separate the knees, circle them away, back together, and back in toward the body. Right. And then let's again come back to the center, place the feet on the floor. And one knee at a time is going to move to the side and back to the center. So taking one knee out towards the ground on that side, the other knee is pointing more or less straight up, and then back to center and to the other side. So you'll find there's actually a little bit of twist happening. So one hip will probably lift a little as you bring the other to the ground. We're also getting a little bit of opening in the inner thighs here. And then when you come back to the center next time, both knees together, press your knees together, press your feet into the ground and feel your tailbone lift a little bit. And then what we'll do is we'll take the soles of the feet together, let the knees come apart, and allow your back to naturally arch a little bit. So knees come together, squeeze in and press down with your feet so your tailbone lifts a bit, and then knees apart, soles of the feet together. So take your time. Don't worry too much about your breath here. If you want to coordinate and it feels comfortable for you, you could inhale as you open, exhale as you close. But I really encourage you to slow this down and really feel your hips. So again, there may be a point when you open the knees where you feel, oh yeah, I feel some stretch there. And you don't want to force beyond that point. Just bring the knees back together. Make it nice and smooth as possible. Acknowledging and noticing whatever is present in your body. And then if you like, you can hear, if you have something to support your knees and you feel like that would be helpful for you, you can bring your blocks or your blankets or cushions or whatever you've got handy underneath your knees. And the idea here is that you want to feel a little bit of stretch if possible in the inner thighs, but you don't want to feel like you're holding tension. So if I were to take the blocks out from under my knees, I would feel like in order to not overstretch, I would have to use these muscles to hold my legs up. Okay, so I can now just let them relax onto these blocks and I can let go. So I invite you to find a position for you where you can let go. The hands can be on the ground or they can rest on your body and focus on the movement of your breath, whatever's comfortable for you. And we'll take several breaths here. So if you feel like you're not comfortable and you need to bring your knees together, feel absolutely free to do that. If you need more support, you can bring whatever you've got under your knees closer in toward your hips, and that's going to provide you with more support so the knees will be a bit higher. And as you rest here, soften. So it's not just the legs we want to focus on letting go, but also the face, the neck, the shoulders, the hands, the breath. When you feel ready to come out of this pose, slowly releasing the knees back in towards each other. You can move whatever you've got supporting you aside if you're using something. And then we're going to wiggle the feet a little wider apart, wider than the hips. Let the knees then fall together. So ideally, there's no effort in holding the knees up. It should feel comfortable. So if it doesn't feel comfortable, adjust a little bit, maybe bring the feet in a little bit closer, or just have the knees straight up and down if that's better for you. So this is an internal rotation for the knees. The other pose we just finished, the bound angle pose, external rotation for the hips. So internal rotation here, external rotation in the last pose. So we're using this as a bit of a counter pose for the hips. And here, really feel your sacrum, the back of your hips, settling and sinking down. As you exhale, feel a sense of spreading across the back of the hips and melting and softening into the earth. And then you can slowly wiggle your feet in towards each other so that the feet are under the knees now. Take your arms out to the sides. They can be a little lower than shoulder height, or even a little higher for the twist, as long as it feels comfortable for your shoulders. So find a good position, and you may need to shift it as we move. We'll take the knees one way, the head can go the other way. If you feel any tension in the shoulder that you're looking towards, you're going to lower that arm down. Come back to center. Try the other direction. Find your comfortable position for that arm. And then back to center. And then we'll go side to side, exhaling as you go into the twist, and inhaling as you come back. So continue like that for a few more breaths, exhaling to one side, inhaling to center, exhaling to the other side. And for those of you who would like to stay for a few breaths in the twist, if that feels good to you, go ahead and stay. And if it feels better to keep moving, or if you feel like you've had enough twisting, either keep moving or just come back to the center. And then whenever you feel complete with the twist, and if you're still enjoying it, carry on. But when you feel ready, you can bring your knees to your chest, place one hand on each knee, and draw the knees towards you, and then release the knees away. So you're exhaling in, inhaling away. If you're coordinating your breath, you don't have to ever coordinate your breath. It just can really help to bring focus to your practice. And one of the other reasons why you might coordinate with the breath, especially in a pose like this, is you find that it's a lot easier to bring the knees in when you're exhaling. If you're inhaling and your belly is growing while you're trying to bring your knees in, it can actually be quite uncomfortable, especially if you've got lunch in your belly or something. And then any other movement, so if you want to circle the knees or rock side to side again, whatever might feel good, or stretch the legs and arms and shake them out. So just take a moment with whatever might feel good here. We're going to move to seated from here. So if there's anything else your body wants to experience here, just take a moment. And then when you feel ready to come upright, you're going to roll onto your side first. And that just really helps support your neck. You can use your opposite hand to bring yourself upright. And we will spend a few minutes in a seated position. So if you would prefer to do the seated work on a chair, you're more than welcome to do that. If you have something like a meditation cushion to sit on, you can use that. If you don't, then a folded blanket works well. I find bed pillows are usually too soft, so you sit on it and you just kind of sink right into it. So the meditation cushion is very firm, and a folded blanket is more firm as well. So, and a chair is also quite firm. So find the seat that's comfortable for you, and you do not have to be cross-legged. This is the most comfortable way for me to sit. But if you're better off with your legs stretched out in front of you, or with your feet on the floor and your knees up in front of you, that can work too. You want to be cautious if your knees are up, that you're not kind of slumping back. So you can use your hands against your knees just to support a nice upright position. So getting comfortable as much as possible. And then take a moment, you can close your eyes and notice how your body feels now. Notice what's present. So one thing we often do, and I find myself doing this sometimes as well, is we kind of shut down and ignore or numb out or push away things that are uncomfortable, whether that's physically uncomfortable or whether that's emotionally or mentally uncomfortable. And the theme of letting go actually invites us to bring all of that into our awareness. Right? So it's very different from pushing away. Pushing away is resistance, creates tension, and whatever we're trying to avoid tends to come around the back door and get us when we least expect it. So the idea of letting go is to acknowledge the challenges, the pain, the difficulty, but not get stuck there, right? Acknowledge that your head might be spinning with stressful thoughts, but try not to get stuck there. Right? So we use the breath, a long exhale to let go, to release. It can shift the attention to something else when we notice that we're getting caught up. But we're not pushing away. We're acknowledging this is what's real right now. I accept this right now. And then I soften whatever tension I may notice around it. So take a moment, and you can practice this even with, if you find some area of your body that's a little bit uncomfortable. I wouldn't go for the really, really painful things if those are present, but find something that's a little uncomfortable. Maybe it's that sort of tightness in the upper back. And just practice noticing it, tuning into it, finding acceptance, even making friends with it. And when we bring these things right up into the light, then we have a much better ability to let go. So take just another moment with that idea. Are there uncomfortable parts of your body, uncomfortable thoughts or feelings present? And if they're just a little uncomfortable, it's easier to work with them. Just acknowledging what's present. And then softening any tension that you may be aware of around that. Let's add some movement. Movement's a great way to move things through the system. So inhaling, finding a little arch, that cat-cow movement, exhaling and rounding. And then if it's comfortable for you, instead of going straight forward and back, try a circle with your torso, and you can round as you go back and find an arch as you come forward and neutral as you go to each side. Or really whatever happens with your body when you move it this way. Finding a nice easeful circle. You can go the other way as well. Wonderful. Well, let's come back to a nice long spine now. We'll do a little bit of work for the neck, the shoulders, hands and arms. So starting by taking your chin down towards the front of your chest. Try to let the weight of your head create the stretch here, and try to keep the spine nice and long. So we're not rounding the back, just dropping the head. And then we'll take the chin an inch or two one way, an inch or two the other way. Moving side to side like a pendulum. Making the movement a little bigger each time, as long as that feels comfortable. So the chin is moving from the center out to the collarbone or the shoulder, back through the center and over to the other side. And again, try to really bring your conscious awareness and attention to this experience. What do you feel in your neck? Where does it feel tight? Where does it feel smooth? Where does it go crunch, click, crunch? Get really curious. That really helps to bring us into the moment when we're paying attention. We could just swing the head side to side without thinking about it, for sure. Bringing our attention really helps us to be in the present moment. You can let the chin come back down to the front of the chest, and then slowly raise the head so that your head is sitting over your shoulders again. And then bring your hands together at your heart. And think about dropping the wrists down a little towards your lap, shoulders down toward your hips, and the crown of the head lifting toward the ceiling. Put just enough pressure on your hands to feel a stretch into your forearms and to feel across the upper chest and shoulders engaging a little bit. Make sure you're breathing. So easy to forget. And then release the hands, let the palms turn down, backs of the hands come together, roll the fingertips in with just gentle pressure against the back of the hands. And then this gesture of openness, of letting go, releasing. Right? Very different from pushing. It's a simple being open to letting go, not forcing it. Right? When we're ready to let go, the wisdom of the Vedas says that what we're wanting to let go of will just fall away like ripe fruit. We don't have to, pick that unripe fruit and eat its sourness. When it's sweet and fresh and ready, it just drops. So we let it go. And then backs of the hands come in towards you, down, around, and back in. And we can take that spaciousness into our hearts. And in that spaciousness, when we've let go of what doesn't serve us, we can invite in what does serve us. And we may not even know what that is, but just leaving space for that which may serve us or nurture us. And then palms down, fingers down and around, into that gesture of release, of letting go. And into that space, into that unknowingness, receiving whatever it is that we may need right now. Well, let's try that once more. The palms down, backs of the hands, rolling around and releasing whatever you don't need. Just imagine it rolling off your hands. Just it's letting go with no effort. And then into that space that we've created, bringing that nurturing, loving energy back in. And then from here, lifting the hands, taking a breath in, and making a big circle with your arms. Down, around. We're going to do that several times. If you like, you can close your eyes and imagine with this gesture that we're taking all of this good energy and creating a kind of bubble of nurturing and protection all around us. And so inside this bubble, we can be safe, feel nurtured, feel healthy. And then also in this bubble, we can allow to be whatever is. So if we don't feel safe, we don't have to force that. If we don't feel nurtured, if we don't feel healthy, then all of that can live in our space as well. Right? So we're never trying to push anything away or deny anything we feel. Bringing the hands back to the heart for a moment. Take a moment to simply notice, feel yourself in this protected space. And slowly release the hands. You can open your eyes if you like, if you've had them closed. We're going to come to the ground now. So if you've been on a chair or if you have a cushion or a blanket underneath you, you're going to let that go. Come onto the ground. If you've had your legs crossed and you've been sitting a while, you can stretch them out and give them a shake. And then with a little bit of support onto your hands, so you're not working too hard to sit upright, but you're not slumping back either, so the hands help support you. You're going to take your feet and you're going to turn them one way and then the other. And let that movement come from your hips. Feel the ball and socket joint of your hip and that movement within the hip joint. Okay. And then we'll bend the knees so the feet are flat on the floor and the feet are a little wider than the shoulders. And then gently taking the knees one side to the other. If you want to take this a little further and bring the knees down toward the ground, you can do that. You might find that you need to release that back arm a little bit so that the shoulder doesn't get wrenched. And you may also find that you start to walk forward. And you can always bring your hands forward with you, or from time to time to shift your hips back. So let's start to add a movement of the arm. So as you take the back arm, you swing it around behind you, and then come back, place that arm on or hand on the ground, take the other arm and swing it back, and come back. So maybe one more to each side with that arm swinging. Well, there's another variation here I don't do very often. I find it's a little bit tricky on my knees, but if my knees are both on the mat, I can be comfortable just to lift up in this position. So if that is something that feels right for you, you can lift. It's really just an option for something different. It's not necessary. So next time you come to one side, as you lift that back arm and swing it around, you're going to bring it down either onto the thigh or onto the ground. And use both hands against the ground or one on your leg to lift your spine tall and keep looking behind you. And then we'll come back around, going the other way, swinging that arm around, bringing it either to your leg or to the floor. And you want to really lengthen up through your spine by pressing into the ground, into the leg here, and breathing. And come back around to the center. Stretch your legs out, give them a little shake. And then we're going to make our way over onto all fours. So you can just take your legs and swing them around. Bring your hands onto the ground underneath your shoulders. As always, if you need extra support for your wrists or your knees, you can fold up your mat under your knees or roll it up under your wrists to be a little more comfortable, a little more padded. And then from here, we're going to soften the elbows, pull back as if you're trying to pull the mat toward your knees. Slide the chest forward between your hands. Take a breath in. And then push into the ground with your hands. Exhale, round your back, bring your head down. And then bending the elbows, pull back as the chest slides forward. And then pressing into the hands as you round the back. If you want to add child's pose, if you want a little bit more on your forward bend here, you can come into child's pose. When you round the back and back to all fours as you come into the arched position. And then I'll invite you to stay in child's pose. A couple of options here. You can keep the knees together, or you can take the knees apart. And that can be really helpful if you have any extra belly there that might get in the way of your breath. You can just have some space between your legs to let the belly be relaxed and soft. I find that that's a really nice position because my breath is less restricted. But you may like the feeling of being a little more rounded and a little more restricted in child's pose. And your head can come either onto your hands or onto the ground. And if it's not comfortable for your knees or ankles, then you're just going to keep the hips a little higher, be in a modified puppy pose. So you can stay for a few more breaths in child's pose. Soften with your exhale. Have a sense of releasing whatever tension may be present for you in this position. If you need to adjust to be more comfortable, by all means do. Right, and then maybe one or two more breaths here. And then you'll come right back up to all fours. So from all fours, we're going to make our way upright. So the easiest way, I think, for most people is to step one foot forward underneath you and then the other, and come to a forward bend first. Now, if there's another way you prefer to get there, feel free. There's lots of ways to find your way to this position. So you're coming into a forward bend, and then bring your elbows up onto your thighs. Bend your knees a little, and see if you can imagine a flat back here. So hips and head level. It's a little hard to know. If you've got someone there, you can ask them, am I level? A mirror is also helpful. And so we're just trying to get the head, the heart, and the hips in a more or less straight line. It doesn't have to be exact. And then from there, we'll slowly lift up, reaching overhead, and then releasing. Right. So the reason I was looking for that sort of levelness with the heart and the head is that we just spent a lot of time in child's pose with the head down and not wanting you to come up too quickly and feel a little bit dizzy. But if you do feel, a little bit lightheaded when you come up, always a good idea to come up slowly, of course, but then just often it just takes a moment for things to settle. So you can come to stand, take a moment, exhale, feel your heels sink down, feel the crown of your head lift up. If you found that releasing breath helpful, you can open your mouth on the exhale. Make any sound that feels right, if it wants to come out. And then let's take the feet a little bit wider. You can bring your hands to your hips, soften your knees, and do a few gentle circles with your hips. And just like when we were circling or semicircle with the head side to side, I invited you to really stay present and to notice, where does it feel smooth? Where does it feel sticky or stuck in my hips? Can I stay present with all of those sensations, even the ones that aren't the most comfortable? Right? And I definitely don't recommend pushing through pain ever, but sometimes, where there's arthritis or injury or just general stiffness, it's not super comfortable to move, and it shouldn't feel painful. Try circling the other way. See how that feels. Great. Notice, did you check out with your mind, or were you really present for those last few circles? Please don't judge. It's just about becoming more aware of what our patterns are, and we all have them. Well, let's bring the feet back in. Bend and straighten the knees a few times. Great. And then we'll take the feet wider. Be even wider than shoulder width now. So however wide is comfortable for you, could even be wider than I am. So we're going to take one foot. If you are mirroring me, it'll be your right foot, and you'll turn it straight out to the right and bend that knee. And then stretch your arms out to the side, coming into, it's called Warrior Two pose, a strong, solid, sturdy standing pose. It's actually a pretty simple pose, but if we hold it for a while, it becomes, you feel the strength of the pose after a few minutes. We won't hold it too long. We're going to think about the rib cage up being separate from the hips down. So here we're going to take the rib cage and shift it over toward the right and shift it over to the left. Let's see if you can isolate your rib cage. If this isn't comfortable for your back, if you feel any twinginess in your spine, just stay in warrior two. Skip the movement. Right? And then reaching out to the side, bringing the hand down onto the thigh, or if you like, you can bring the forearm down if that's comfortable for you. Reach the other arm up. The other option here, if you want to work a little harder, is instead of bracing against your thigh with your arm or your hand, try just letting the arm dangle down in front of your leg. Maybe put a little pressure back against your leg and reach up. So that makes it a little bit more challenging than being supported. So find a position that works for you. We're going to take that upper arm now, bring it behind the back, turning the palm behind you so it's facing away, back of your hand against the sacrum, and then lift that back shoulder a little. Good, 1 or 2 more breaths here. And then let's lift to warrior two again, keeping that right knee bent. And then slowly lower the arms, straighten the leg, bring your feet parallel, and we'll go the other way. So taking the toes, turning them out, bend the knee. You want to make sure your knee is not beyond your ankle. Right? That's going to put strain on the knee. You want it to sit right over the ankle, so you really should be able to see your big toe on the ground on the inside of your knee. So if not, try straightening the knee a little bit or think about moving it back a bit. Arms to the sides. And we'll shift the rib cage one way and the other. It's really a tiny movement. You're not trying to go more than an inch or so each way. And again, if it feels tweaky in your back, forget it. Okay, just stay stationary in the pose. And then reaching to the side, bring the hand or the forearm down, or let the arm just hang down the inside of the leg. Other arm reaches up. Breathing here. And then again, we'll turn the palm back, slide the arm back behind the back, and think about that shoulder moving back. And you'll probably feel some stretch in the side of the body here. Breathe into that space. If you feel like you're straining and you're not supporting yourself, definitely come into that supported position. When you're ready, reaching up, coming back to warrior two. Lower the arms, straighten the legs. And we'll step the feet in towards each other. Again, bend and straighten the legs a few times to release the ankles, knees, and hips just a little bit after that strong standing warrior pose. And then we'll come into a forward bend, and you can do this a couple of different ways. So you can bring the hands forward onto your thighs, you can bring the hands behind the back, or you can reach all the way down to the ground. Well, let's start by taking a breath in, reaching up, and then coming forward. So again, it could be behind the back, to the thighs, or reaching down, or really any variation that you prefer. We'll come up with each breath in, forward with each exhale, or again, as always, follow your own comfortable rhythm of movement and breathe freely if that's better for you. We're going to stay forward this time. You can let the hands come to the knees or elbows to the thighs. And then we're going to find our way back down however you like. You can go down the way you came up by bringing the hands down and stepping back onto all fours. Or again, there's lots of ways to get there, so find the way that suits you best. And we'll come back to a little bit of that cat-cow movement, or all fours to child's pose. And for those of you who are looking for a little more today, you can alternate all fours child's pose, then all fours to downward dog, back to all fours and child's pose, and so on. Continue this movement a few more rounds, and if at any point you would like to stay in downward dog or stay in child's pose, feel absolutely free to explore either of those poses for a little bit longer or keep moving between them if that feels better. Wherever you are, you might take just a moment in child's pose. If you've been in downward dog or you've been flowing and it feels comfortable to come to child's pose, I'm there for a few breaths, and again, find that space of release. When you feel ready, you can come back upright and coming around, swinging the legs to back onto your back. Right back to the very position that we started in. So knees bent or straight, if that's better for you. Hands resting on the body, tuning into your breath. And maybe adding that sounding release to your exhale. And take several more breaths with that sounding release. And then eventually, we're going to let the sounding go and just come to a nice, natural, easeful breath. And then from here, if there's any movement that would feel important to you before Shavasana, if there's something that feels like it needs to be stretched or compressed or moved in any way, feel free to do a little bit of movement. Spend a minute or two just to move and wiggle and get comfortable, and then find your way to stillness. So either lying down with legs bent or straight, or if you prefer, you can come to a seated position for our final relaxation / meditation. So if you haven't already, starting to settle and come to stillness, maybe putting a blanket over you or extra clothes if you need them so that you're nice and cozy. And then you can put your focus very gently on the breath. And simply with the intention of softening tension with each exhalation. No sounding, no particular way of breathing, but just this intention of softening with each exhalation. The exhalation is where we naturally let go, where we naturally soften and relax. And as you soften and relax with your exhale, feel your head let go. So if you're on the ground, let your head be fully supported by whatever it's on, the ground or a cushion. And really let that support hold you so that you can relax your face, relax your jaw, and soften the muscles of your neck and throat. Soften your shoulders and arms, your wrists and your hands. As you exhale, feel your rib cage relax and all the little muscles that support your ribs soften. Soften around the waist, the lower back, the abdomen. Sink down through the pelvis and let the muscles of your buttocks, lower belly, pelvic floor, and hips relax. Thighs, knees, calves, ankles, and feet, letting go from the hips to the toes. I'd like to share with you a chant today that talks about this releasing or letting go. That when the conditions are right, when we've done the practice and we've continually worked to release, that when we're ready, that whatever we're working to let go of just falls away, like in this chant, like a ripe cucumber, often described as ripe fruit. And when we let go, when we're able to release what no longer serves us, the chances we then taste this nectar of life, Amrita, Amrita, the nectar of life. We come to a place of freedom, of moksha, of release, where we taste life's beautiful, juicy, delicious nectar. Triambakaya Jamahe Sugandhim Pushpivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanat Mrityurmukshiyamamritat If you are ready to come out of Shavasana, to move on with your day, you can start to deepen the breath a little. As we deepen the breath, we invite a little more energy into the body. If you prefer to stay longer, feel free to do so. You can just ignore me or turn me off if you need to. But if you're ready, start to deepen your breath. And as you deepen your breath, imagine energy flowing to your fingers and toes, and you can start to wiggle them. And maybe moving the ankles and wrists, and eventually the arms and legs and the spine, everything, getting movement wherever it feels necessary, wherever it feels ready to move. then eventually you'll roll onto one side. You can pause there for a moment. And when you're ready, using your opposite hand against the ground to support you in coming upright. Bring the palms together. As you know, I always encourage you to take the yoga off the mat and into your life. And so when you find yourself getting stuck in negative thought patterns or focusing on what's not feeling good in your body, you can disrupt that pattern first by trying to do some movement. I find that's really helpful, just getting up and moving, going for a walk, doing some yoga, whatever it is, moving your body. And then also you can try focusing on the breath and that releasing exhale that we worked on today, that just making some sound to help release and move stuck energy. Namaste. Have a lovely day.